Welcome to Chapter 1, Learning About Life. By the end of this session, you will be able to do the following. Identify the shared characteristics of the natural sciences. Summarize the steps of the scientific method. Compare inductive reasoning with deductive reasoning. And describe the goals of basic science and applied science. What is biology? To put it simply, biology is the study of life. Biologists may study anything from microscopic or submicroscopic views of a cell to the ecosystem or even the whole living planet. The process of science. We can define science from the Latin scientia, meaning knowledge, as knowledge that covers general truths or the operation of general laws, especially when they are acquired and tested by the scientific method. The scientific method is a method of research with defined steps that include experiments and careful observation. The scientific method is testing of hypotheses by means of repeatable experiments. A hypothesis is a suggested explanation for a given event, which one can test. You may have heard of the term natural sciences. Natural sciences includes both life science and physical science. Life sciences concentrate on the study of living things. Biology is an example of a life science. Physical sciences, on the other hand, study non-living matter. For example, astronomy, geology, physics, and chemistry are physical sciences. Many sciences are interdisciplinary and study both living things and non-living matter. For example, biochemistry and biophysics are examples of interdisciplinary sciences. There are two different forms of scientific reasoning, inductive reasoning and deductive reasoning. Inductive reasoning is a form of logical thinking that uses related observations to arrive at a general conclusion. Sometimes this is referred to as descriptive or discovery science. This type of reasoning helps a person to observe, explore, and discover. Deductive reasoning is a form of logical thinking that uses a general principle or law to predict specific results. Deductive reasoning is hypothesis-based. It begins with a specific question or problem and formulates a potential answer or hypothesis that one can test. Typically, the scientific method has the following steps: observation, ask a question, propose a hypothesis, test the hypothesis, analyze results. The hypothesis is supported, the results should be published and shared with the scientific community. If the hypothesis is not supported, it is best to try again with a different hypothesis. In order to have a valid hypothesis, it must be both testable and falsifiable. When a hypothesis is testable, it is subject to experimentation. It asks a solid question. Good hypothesis must be also falsifiable, meaning that the experimental results may in fact disprove the hypothesis. Good hypothesis has a variable as well as a control group. The variable will be any part of the experiment that will be varied or will change during the experiment. The control group contains every feature of the experimental group, except that it is not given the manipulation that the researcher hypothesizes. For example, in a clinical trial to determine the effectiveness of a new antidepressant, there is both a control group and a treatment group. The treatment group takes one actual antidepressant tablet every morning. The control group takes one placebo pill every morning. Participants in the study are not aware of whether or not they are taking the drug. This helps us see any results as pertaining to the actual antidepressant and not some other confounding factor. Most scientists will present their results in peer-reviewed manuscripts published in scientific journals. Papers submitted to scientific journals are peer-reviewed. Scientists publish their work so that other scientists can reproduce the experiments under similar or different conditions to expand on the findings. When writing a scientific paper, the structure that is often used is something called I'm rad. The I is for introduction. The M is for materials and methods. R is for results, and D is for discussion. However, this is only a minimal view of a scientific paper. Usually, a scientific paper will begin with a section called an abstract. The abstract is a concise summary of the paper. Also, at the end, most articles will contain acknowledgments and a reference section. For the introduction, it should be brief but broad and have a lot of good background information. It should also give rationale and justification of the work that was done for the paper. The materials and methods should be a complete and accurate description of all substances that the researchers used and the methods and techniques they used to gather data. In the results section, this should have a narrative about the findings but without any further interpretation. The next section is discussion. Here, the researchers interpret the results. They describe how variables may be related, and they attempt to explain the observations. Finally, the paper ends with a conclusion. The conclusion summarizes the importance of the experimental findings. Biology is a science that studies life, but what exactly is life? It may sound like a silly question, but the answer is actually pretty difficult to define. For example, there is a current debate on whether or not viruses should be included as living organisms. This is because viruses exhibit all of the qualities needed to be alive. However, viruses cannot replicate themselves on their own. In order for them to reproduce themselves, they must hijack the machinery of a healthy host cell. For this reason, many researchers consider viruses not to be truly alive. So, what are the properties of life? The properties of life include order, sensitivity or response to the environment, reproduction, adaptation, growth and development, regulation and homeostasis, energy processing, and evolution. Order. All organisms are composed of one or more cells. For single-celled organisms, atoms come together to form molecules inside the cell. These molecules come together to form the cell's organelles. In multicellular organisms, similar types of cells come together to form tissues. Different types of tissues come together forming organs. Organs will work together in organ systems, and many organ systems come together to coordinate the function of the entire organism. Sensitivity or response to stimuli. Organisms respond to diverse stimuli. Plants can bend towards a source of light. Vines can climb on fences and walls. And flowers respond to touch. Bacteria can move toward or away certain chemicals in a process called chemotaxis, or they can move toward or away from light in a process called phototaxis. Movement towards a stimulus is considered a positive response. Movement away from a stimulus is considered a negative response. The structural organization of the human body. Before you begin to study the different structures and functions of the human body, it is helpful to consider its basic architecture. That is, how its smallest parts are assembled into larger structures. It is convenient to consider the structures of the body in terms of the fundamental levels of organization that increase in complexity. These include subatomic particles, atoms, molecules, organelles, cells, tissues, organs, organ systems, organisms, and the biosphere. When discussing the levels of structural organization of the human body, the organization is often discussed in terms of 6 distinct levels of increasing complexity, from the smallest chemical building blocks to a unique human organism. This includes the chemical level, the cellular level,
the tissue level, the organ level, the organ system level, and the organism level. At the chemical level, atoms bond to form molecules with three-dimensional structures. At the cellular level, a variety of molecules combine to form the fluid and organelles of the body's cells. At the tissue level, a community of similar cells form the body tissue. At the organ level, two or more different tissues combine to form an organ. At the organ system level, two or more organs work closely together to perform the functions of the body system. At the organismal level, many organ systems work harmoniously together to perform the functions of an independent organism. To study the chemical level of organization, scientists consider the simplest building blocks of matter, including subatomic particles, atoms, and molecules. All matter in the universe is composed of one or more unique pure substances called elements. Familiar examples of these elements include hydrogen, oxygen, carbon, nitrogen, calcium, and iron. The smallest unit of any of these pure substances or elements is the atom. Atoms are made up of subatomic particles, including protons, electrons, and neutrons. Two or more atoms combine to form a molecule, such as the water molecules, proteins, and sugars found in living things. Molecules are the chemical building blocks of all body structures. A cell is the smallest independently functioning unit of a living organism. Even bacteria, which are extremely small, independently living organisms, have a cellular structure. All living structures of human anatomy contain cells, and almost all functions of the human physiology are performed in cells or are initiated by cells. A human cell typically consists of flexible membranes that enclose a cytoplasm. The cytoplasm is the water-based cellular fluid, together with a variety of tiny functioning units called organelles. In humans, as in all organisms, cells perform all functions of life. A tissue is a group of many similar cells or related types of cells that work together to perform a specific function. An organ is an anatomically distinct structure of the body composed of two or more tissue types. Each organ performs one or more specific physiological functions. An organ system is a group of organs that work together to perform major functions or to meet physiological needs of the body. Here, we discuss 11 distinct organ systems of the body. However, beware that assigning organs to specific organ systems may be imprecise, since organs that belong to one system can also function integrally with other systems. In fact, most organs contribute to more than one system within the body. The integumentary system includes the hair, the skin, and the nails. It encloses the internal body structures and is the site of many sensory receptors. The skeletal system includes cartilage, bones, and joints. It supports the movements of the body along with the muscular system and supports the body's structure. The muscular system includes the tendons and the skeletal muscles. The muscular system enables movement along with the skeletal system and helps to maintain body temperature. The nervous system includes the brain, the spinal cord, and the peripheral nerves. The nervous system functions to detect and process sensory information and to activate the body's responses. The endocrine system includes the pituitary gland, the thyroid gland, the pancreas, the adrenal glands, and the testes in men or ovaries in women. The endocrine system secretes body hormones and regulates body processes. The cardiovascular system includes the heart and the blood vessels. The cardiovascular system delivers oxygen and nutrients to the tissues and equalizes temperature in the body. The lymphatic system includes the thymus, the lymph nodes, the spleen, and the lymphatic vessels. The lymphatic system functions to return fluid to the blood and to defend against pathogens that can cause illness and disease. The respiratory system includes the nasal passages, the trachea, and the lungs. The respiratory system removes carbon dioxide from the body and delivers oxygen to the blood. The digestive system includes the stomach, the liver, the gallbladder, the large intestine, and small intestines. The digestive system processes food for use by the body and removes waste from undigested food. The urinary system includes the kidneys and the urinary bladder. The urinary system controls water balance in the body, removing waste from blood and excreting them. The male reproductive system includes the epididymis and the testes. The male reproductive system produces sex hormones and gametes called sperm. It also functions to deliver these gametes to the female for reproduction. The female reproductive system includes the mammary glands, the ovaries, and the uterus. The female reproductive system produces sex hormones and gametes called eggs or ova. It also supports the embryo or fetus until birth and produces milk for the infant. Finally, the organism level is the highest level of organization. An organism is a living being that has a cellular structure and that can independently perform all physiological functions necessary for life. In multicellular organisms, including humans, all cells, tissues, organs, and organ systems of the body work together to maintain the life and health of the organism. Thank you for watching. Levels of organization in ecology. In ecology, we seek to understand the interactions among organisms and their environment. This includes both biotic and abiotic components. Some of these factors include plants like trees, flowers, and grass, water like oceans, lakes, and rivers, animals like mammals, birds, and fish, and soil like rocks and minerals. All living things depend upon one another, and they depend upon the environment in which they live for their survival. If the population of one organism rises or falls, then this can affect the whole rest of the ecosystem. This means that all organisms in an ecosystem are dependent upon each other. This is called interdependence. There are 5 levels of organization in ecology: organism, population, community, ecology, and biosphere. We start with the organism. The organism is the lowest level of organization, which includes both unicellular and multicellular organisms. An organism is one individual living entity, like a plant or animal or a microscopic organism. All living species in this level exhibit all the characteristics required for the existence of life. The next level of organization is population. A population is a group of individuals of a given species that live in a specific geographic area at a given time. Note that populations include individuals of the same species. Many populations come together to form a community. A community includes all the populations in a specific area at a given time. A community includes populations of organisms of different species. Putting together all of the living and non-living components of the environment in a certain area at a specific time gives us the ecosystem. The highest level of organization in ecology is the biosphere. The biosphere is the global ecological system of all living creatures, their relationships with each other, and the environment. A biosphere is the sum of all of the ecosystems established on planet Earth. It is the living component of the Earth system. Living in balance with the environment helps preserve our world on every level. Thank you for watching.